Hey, so in sort of a follow-up to the last video that I made about the everybody is you pushed out stuff, sort of another thing that goes right with it, or I was kind of talking about, but I didn't really talk about enough, I don't think, is your reaction to everything is you pushed out. It's your reaction to everything is a reflection to you of you and what you think and where you're at. This is, I think, really useful. This is a almost diagnostic tool. You know, if you think about it, if you think about all of the different things that happen in a day, all the different things you run across, all the people you see, all the things, you know, you see on TV, all the minor events that just occur throughout a day, think how few of them you have a real reaction to. Sometimes I'll go through like a whole day and I don't have a strong emotional reaction to anything, but whenever you do, whenever you have a reaction to something, that's more than just like a temporary thing, it's telling you something. It's because there's something below the surface that's getting rubbed. Always, if you're having an emotional reaction to something, it's a reflection of you. And I've seen this really clearly with the specific person crowd, specifically the people who, it's not just enough to believe that you can select a reality where you're with somebody that you love, but where there seems to be this need to believe that they're not even real and that you control their thoughts, you control who they are. They're just like a puppet, essentially. I've found myself recently, I'm not, on Reddit there's a subreddit specifically for the SP crowd, and I'm not subscribed to it. I rarely post on it. I almost never read it, but occasionally something will pop up, like it'll recommend the subreddit to me and there'll be a post there and I'll just read the headline. I'll be like, you know, I'll click on it or something. And I find that I have a strong reaction to this idea that you create other people. And it really bothers me. And it's funny, I was talking to Matt about this maybe like a week ago. I love that I can talk to him about this. It's so fucking awesome talking to somebody who I met through all of this stuff, because like it's really helpful. I was saying to him, you know, this subreddit really bothers me. This attitude really bothers me. And I know partly why it is. The idea that you control other people and thus you are responsible for their behavior is very dangerous. The majority of people that feel the need to believe that are already coming from a terrible place. The fact that you would, you know, the idea of needing to control another person, or the idea of, you know, that being appealing to me screams out that you don't think you're good enough to just get it naturally. Like if somebody else has free will, then they won't love you. And that to me signals a very damaged core sense of yourself, which will never produce anything good in the outside world in whatever area you're damaged. It just won't. You will continue to experience fucked up relationships as long as you don't repair that. And the thing that really bothers me about it, and that I've experienced firsthand, is the idea that people that abuse you in any way, if they cheat on you, lie to you, physically abuse you, mentally abuse you, that is somehow your fault. That is something that is on you. The only thing that is on you is to get out of this situation and do the work on yourself. Because I promise, if you do that, you will not find anything appealing about the person that abused you. I speak from personal experience on this. But my reaction to this is always so strong, and it's coming from that place of like, the thing that drives me crazy about it is imagining what I'm sure is happening, which is that desperate people that are in abusive situations, that don't have a strong enough sense of who they are or sense of their value to realize that they don't need that and that they don't deserve that, are looking for pain relief. They're looking for answers. They're looking for a way to make it stop. And because of this desperate, low sense of self, they're looking for a way to keep the relationship and fix it. Because, being in an abusive relationship drags you to the lowest place you can be. And, this idea that because you play a role, because you're part of the energetic equation, that somehow makes you responsible, drives me crazy. Obviously, you and how you are, how you present yourself to the world, how you feel, all of that automatically affects other people's behavior. It does. This is easy. If the way you think about yourself causes you to behave differently, just imagine if you walk into a restaurant and you scream you want to speak to the manager, you're obviously going to get a different reaction from the maitre d' than you would if you walk in and say, "Hi, is there seating for two?" You're going to get a different reaction. This is a really obvious, simple example. So yes, you impact the people in your environment, but how that maitre d' responds to you is on them. If they hear you yell for the manager and they walk up and punch you in the face, that's not your fault. Their behavior isn't your fault. Yes, you played a role in facilitating that person expressing themselves the way that they did. But a different person with a different self-concept, a different maitre d' isn't going to punch you in the face. They're going to say, yes, I'll go get, whatever. You'll get a different response. And it's the same thing with people. It's the same thing with how you impact people. Your behavior is always a part of it, but you don't create an abusive person. You don't create a liar or a cheater. The only thing that you do is choose to be there and experience that when you don't have to. That's it. You're not responsible for the lying. You're not responsible for the cheating. You're not responsible for the abuse. You're just plugging yourself in as part of the equation, and your only responsibility is to unplug, get the hell out, and go into your sphere and do the work on you so that nothing about that situation is ever naturally appealing to you again. And so, I've been thinking about my reactions to that stuff and why I get so agitated. This subreddit is the blind leading the blind. That's obvious. And, I have this strong reaction because I think about these people like me who were in this situation, with an abuser, and how that kind of a mentality of blaming yourself is part of this abuse thing. And the whole thing just evokes this big reaction in me. So what does that tell me about me? The things I'm saying, the things I reply, my tone, all that shit, that's about me. The things I'm saying are valid, but the fact that it evokes this reaction to me tells me a few things. One, I have a belief that's causing it, and I've thought about it. I talked about this with Matt, and I was saying, I think I'm believing that there's an intention behind it. It's like the attitude of the people who talk about this is very abrasive. It's very defensive. It's often very insulting, and it's hard to see that they're coming from a place of pain, but they are. And I've been sort of believing there's a malicious stupidity to this, and really it's not that. Like, my belief about it was that people are being recklessly harmful, when really it's just a bunch of really sad people in a bad place, desperate for somebody to give them some feeling of worth. And just having that realization, just talking about it and realizing, part of this comes from my own past of having, abuse, and this sense of wanting to protect other people from going through that, and feeling like, the people that are defending are coming from a malicious place instead of thinking about it, understanding where they're coming from, and having a sympathetic reaction rather than a angry one or like a judgmental one. You know, this I think is how you unravel these parts of your personality that cause reactions. Like it'll tell you something. Obviously, my reaction to this is coming from, you know, pain. Like it's coming from my own experience and, you know, this desire to, like this savior desire to keep other people from experiencing it. And so it's funny, you know, just thinking about that, talking about it, realizing that there's no malicious intent on the part of the people that are believing this. They're kind of just a tragic crowd that, you know, there's not a lot I can do about other than just continue to speak the truth, speak my experience. It just kind of took the wind out of that for me. Like, I don't have any desire to talk about that anymore. There's really not much of a reason, I don't think, to talk about it with them anyway. It just kind of deflated it for me, you know. I realized that I can't save people from going through that. I couldn't have saved myself, I don't think, 15 years ago when I was in a similar situation. I think sometimes you just have to go through stuff in order to get it, and sadly that is what a lot of people in that camp are going to have to do. But the important thing was me. It's for me to figure out what my reaction meant for me, and it did. I talked a little bit about that with Matt, and it made me feel better. You know, it redefined things in my mind, and now I'm not having that reaction anymore. You know, anytime you have a reaction like that, a visceral physical thing or something that doesn't just dissipate after like 15 minutes, you can bet it's coming from something about you that you have to look at least. You can unravel it if you think it down far enough, you know? It took me a minute to think about why it made me so upset, and it's because I was assigning, in my mind, I was thinking, these people are being intentionally reckless. Like, you know, they're putting people in harm's way when it's just a tragic situation of the blind leading the blind. And so I don't, you know, feel so bad about it anymore, or feel so, I'm not having this reaction anymore. It's just, I'm just kind of having a, that's really sad reaction now. Anyway, I don't know. I just wanted to talk about that because that was something recent that happened, and something that made it really obvious to me for the 100th time this year that your reactions always come from you and a belief that you have, or an experience that you've had. So I don't know. I hope that helps clarify something for somebody. As always,